Well, you've just come back from the President's Job Summit, and during the summit, in fact, one of the questions that President Obama asked was, how do we get businesses hiring again? Do you think the summit succeeded in getting to the core of that question?
I think a couple of things. First of all, it's very important that the President called this summit. I think it was historic because what it means is the President recognized there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And before you can fix the problem, you first got to admit there is one. And there was a huge cross-section of people in the room, everything from labor, environmentalists, academics, business folks, CEOs, investment bankers, a cross-section.
Right.
And really what it was an opportunity to mine for ideas.
Okay.
And there were a tremendous amount of really good ideas that came forward. Ideas, that everything from enforcing our trade laws to help protect jobs to how you could jumpstart the economy by having a massive program of public building retrofitting and bringing them up to current scientific standards, and what that would do to put construction workers back to work, would do to put people back to work who make glass, who make air handling equipment, who make ventilation equipment, and that uses steel, it takes carbon out of the air, reduces energy.
Right.
How we could do energy efficient appliances and give people incentives to do that, how we could weatherize homes and do certifications of whole cities and do things like that. So there was a really terrific group of ideas, including how you can access capital for small businesses.
But I get the impression that there was a mixed message that came out of the summit, that even though that there were these good ideas and that the administration was interested in seeing some of these ideas come to fruition, that there was a sense that there just weren't very many resources out there to the federal government. It was like President Obama said, we ought to hit the accelerator, but he was also saying there's not very much gas.
No, I think that what it was a very, very direct discussion at the end in the question and answer period, where I think he was really quite spectacular. I couldn't imagine the past president doing that. But there was a recognition of what the federal government can do, but also an incentive for the private sector, and how the private sector could go and leverage additional funding. There was discussions in other groups. I wasn't in that group, so I don't know the complete, but there was a discussion altogether in investments. I know that one of the ideas that came out is a transaction fee for Wall Street. I know
you were really a big supporter of that.
That came out. I know that there was a discussion about some of the TARP money that was out there is not being utilized, to redirect that TARP money into job creation right now. And like I said, there's some things that will create jobs right away. One of the things that people need to understand, if you have a long-term strategy, it will create short-term jobs. Okay. For example, if you talk about going back and having high-speed trains, high-speed rail, and if you say over the next 5, 10, 15 years we're going to do this many thousand miles of high-speed rail, companies will start to invest in mills to make high-speed rail, invest to make rail cars, invest to do all that stuff. If you say we're going to do this over the next 2 years, people say, whoa, that's not going to happen. So having a meaningful long-term strategy will lead to short-term jobs. We talked about that too.
Okay. So from the summit, we're going to be going to Capitol Hill, and there are members of Congress who are ready to move over the next 2 or 3, 4 weeks. What are you pushing for? What do you think we should be pushing for?
Well, I think we need to have a very aggressive strategy to reestablish manufacturing in this country back to its preeminent position. Manufacturing at one time was 26% of the economy. Traditionally, it's been in the mid-20s, 22, 23% of the GDP. It's now down to 9% of GDP. So we're not going to get back to 22% in a week. So first of all, we need to have a strategy to rebuild manufacturing to its preeminent position. We need to look at ways that we can make products that we can export. We need to enforce our trade laws. I'll give you an example that to me is very near and dear to me. 3 years ago, we brought a trade case against imported coated free sheet paper made from illegally logged timber from China and Indonesia. The Commerce Department ruled that that was actually a subsidy and it was being dumped. Then they directed us to the International Trade Commission. When we got to the International Trade Commission, they said, well, there's no injury, not enough injury. Now we're back 3 years later and we've lost 7,000 jobs. China's still doing the same thing. Now we've lost 7,000 jobs. Now there's real injury. Why should we have a trade policy where we've got to lose jobs before we'll enforce the law. We proved that China was cheating, dumping, and subsidizing, yet our commission wouldn't take action. Now we've lost 7,000 jobs. Hopefully they'll take action.
Was there much traction on that issue during the summer?
During the summit, no, because that's not the place where you can have that kind of discussion when you're in group of, we broke into 6 groups of roughly 30 people per group. But it's the kind of thing that we continue to talk about. When you ask me about talking about it with the Congress, that's something we continue to talk about with Congress.
Right.
Having a long-term strategy for high-speed rail.
Mm-hmm.
That's a massive investment that will create real jobs. You got to have. What if you electrify the rail system? So you'll take carbon out of the air. There'll be jobs making the towers to hold the electric wires.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be jobs making the wire for the electrification. So and you'll take carbon out of the air. So there's a lot of good discussions we're having with Congress.
Okay. Well, we'll see how things go in the next few weeks. So you're optimistic?
Look, I think that for me, the fact that the president called this summit means this president recognizing that jobs and economic strategy are now at the forefront. Sure, we've got to have a health care program so people will know what their health care costs are going to be. We need to have a climate change bill that's going to both create jobs and have effective price on carbon so people will know what the cost of energy is. The president is moving in many different areas. When they all coalesce, I think that we'll see an economic boom in this country, and I'm proud of him for calling people together.
Thank you, Leo Gerard.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right.